Neil Brown's got to do something about 5-7. What are they doing there in Morgantown? We will check it out right here at the Voice of College Football. We welcome everybody into our Mountaineers live show that we do here each and every week. Appreciate you being here. We've done it 56 consecutive shows here. And we want to shout out again to our buddy and good friend, Chris, Golden Blue Dude, because these shows will carry on because of him. And we want to continue to honor and pay his memory respect as we continue on. And he would want us to talk his beloved Mountaineers. We also have, of course, Joey Foster here. Joey, what's going on?
I'm doing all right, Mark. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. We're ready to dive into some West Virginia football here.
I looked a while ago. We're 141 days away until kickoff of the Penn State game. So I'm pretty excited about that. So I mean, it's getting closer. But yeah, Neil Brown's got to do something this year because if we start out the season, I believe if we start the season 2-3, he's going to be fired at that point. I think they'll give him 5 games and see what happens. Might even fire him at 3-2. I think everybody expects to lose the Penn State game, but he better win the next 4.
Yeah, and I don't want to write off the Penn State game. There's no reason to write it off. Yeah, Penn State's an excellent football team. They may even make the college football playoff this year, but you can't be writing off football games if you're West Virginia. So I expect them to show up and give it a game and for it to be a good football game, much like they did against Pitt last year, which was a great game at Heinz Field. But and I tell you this from time to time, Joey, as I do these shows across America with all the various teams and conferences, anytime West Virginia is brought up, the general college football fan does not realize how good West Virginia's been through the years. They really don't.
Right.
They are underestimated. So it'd be nice to get WVU back to where it's been in the not too distant past, so people would once again recognize West Virginia football.
I don't know if they're new college football fans or maybe just new to following college football. Maybe they've watched their team for the past 25 years, but don't keep up with any other team. So therefore, they don't understand, how good West Virginia's been in the past. And then I know you have, and as many others have tried to point out about how good West Virginia's been in the past. Josh Pate did something on his show one night talking about how up until 2019, 17 out of 18 years, West Virginia was a top 25 team. 17 out of 18 years up until 2019 when Neil Brown showed up, and not made the top 25 since then. So, Neil Brown's got to get this turned around. The West Virginia fans are used to being in the top 25. I can remember all the way back to the 80s, the early 80s, we would be top 25 quite often. It's just maybe not on a consistent basis like through the 2000s, but we were in the 80s. We were pretty much every couple of years we were a top 25 team, 80s and 90s. And then, so I think that Neil Brown's got a lot of he's a dead man walking pretty much right now. It's what the rumor is that. So we'll see how that goes.
Absolutely. We're talking West Virginia football. Before Joey and I start to dig in on some off-season moves and some possible moves, we want to remind everyone that we've got a West Virginia channel. So you might be watching us on the West Virginia channel, and I actually hope that you are, or you might be watching right here on the main channel here at the Voice of College Football. But go on over to the West Virginia channel. We're going to leave the link in the chat to the West Virginia channel, and we would ask, as I've done this before, basically said, you know what, even if you're not a West Virginia channel fan or a fan of whatever channel that we are promoting at the time, if you enjoy what we do here at the Voice of College Football and you want to support what we do, then please subscribe, and then you can unsubscribe down the road. But please do that for us. I'm going to leave the link in the chat for the West Virginia channel. We're about 100 away from 1,000, so we want to get there quickly.
All right, let me apologize in advance. So I'm at my wife's aunt's house, and there's several kids here. So if y'all hear something in the background, it's just kids screaming and yelling and playing, and I apologize in advance. So.
Well, I should be good to go here. It should be nice and quiet. I'm at my mom's old condo here and I had to run down here to set up for tonight. And as I review at some point tonight, I'm going to look over all the spring games tomorrow. There's a ton of them. So we're going to be live all over the place tomorrow, watch parties, call-in shows. We've got Ohio State, we've got Georgia, we've got all sorts of teams across America, Oklahoma and others, big names with their spring games, USC. So we will be all over it all afternoon tomorrow, but we'll have the update and the schedule drawn up. You'll be able to see that on the community page. But in the meantime, we want to lock in on West Virginia, of course. And Joey, you did a little research today in regards to transfer portal possibilities.
Right. So right now, I made this up, and I don't know if you can see it very good, but in the transfer portal, there were 19 originally entered, and 2 have since withdrawn their names. So, but there's still 17 in the portal. 7 of those have still not found a landing spot. And so of the remaining, I've ranked what I think the top 10 programs are that need that the top 10 players are that we're losing, that are going to be so detrimental to our season this year. So some of the factors I used when I did this is like the position, what position they were in, whether they were a starter, and how weak that leaves that position. Do we have somebody to take their place, or have we got to transfer in to replace them? So the strength of the backup, in other words, and their total stats, and whether or not they were a 2-year starter. So if they've been there for 2 years, obviously they're pretty good and been through the program and understand how it works. So that would be a major thing, and would knock them down my list. So my first one on the list is Jordan Jefferson. He's 4-star defensive lineman, transferred to LSU. Last season, he had 18 tackles, 12 total pressures. That included 8 quarterback hurries, a quarterback hit, and 3 sacks. So last year, I got an email. I've got a great contact at Western University, and I got an email saying Jordan Jefferson may be entering the transfer portal. And I said, oh, no. So I said, what's going on? And they told me, they said, he needs some money. He's not got that much on NIL right now, and he needs some money. So I was able to reach out to someone within our NIL program, and they did some research and looked at things, and was able to get him a little bit more money. I don't know what his NIL deal was, how much it was, but now he's leaving and going to LSU. So, if it wasn't last year, it was definitely this year. So I wish him all the best. But he's a great player. That's number one, going to hurt West Virginia more than any other player we've lost. Number 2, Caden Prather, also a 4-star. He was a wide receiver. He just played. This was his first year playing. He was a freshman. He's transferred to Maryland. He had 51 receptions, 502 yards, and for some reason I've got 3. I'm sorry, he's not a. I don't know why I've got 3 interceptions there. Somehow I looked at there, got 3 interceptions in there. Of course, he's a wide receiver. So, but that's going to hurt West Virginia quite a bit as well. He's it was highly recruited. We landed him, and honestly, we didn't know how we landed him. So, but yeah, he ought to make a great player for Maryland there, and a big loss for us. Next up, we have Reese Smith, 3-star wide receiver. He's undecided on where he's transferring to. I don't know if he has any offers on the table. He had 219 receptions for 205 yards. He was pretty good. He was pretty good. He was coming on pretty strong there towards the end of the year, really. So, and I don't know if that's right either, the 219 receptions. I'm going to tell you what, guys, I had to work pretty fast making this up.
Well, let me check you on
219 receptions. There's no way that's right. I think it's probably 19 receptions for 205 yards.
Yes. And if he caught 219 balls last year, then he's really not worth much because he's gaining less than
no, exactly.
We got 19, Joey.
Right. He is a pretty good wide receiver and was really coming on strong at the end of the year. So that's going to be a hurt for West Virginia, losing him. The next one I have, and the only reason I have him on here is just simply because he knew the program by the time the season was over. That's JT Daniels. Once again, 5-star quarterback, transferred to Rice. Last year, he was 200 out of 327, 2,107 yards, 13 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He ended up getting benched by the end of the year for the backup quarterback, just like he did at Georgia, just like he did at USC. So, I guess he's going on to Rice to see if maybe he could start an entire season. If he does, it'll be the first time. But still, it hurts West Virginia because I think Nico Marchio is going to be thrown into the fire a little earlier than they wanted, than they hoped for. The next one is St. McLeod, as they call him Boo St. McLeod. He's 3-star safety. He's undecided on where he's going. He had 22 tackles and 2 forced fumbles. So pretty good safety there. I mean, and hopefully he doesn't get picked up and comes back into the program if they want him back. Next one, Will Crowder. He was a 3-star quarterback. He's transferred to Troy. Last year, he was 6 of 6 for 57 yards, 1 touchdown. He was the 3rd-string quarterback. Will Crowder's a great quarterback. The problem is he had one read. So he would get the ball snapped to him. He would look, and if that receiver wasn't open, he'd take off running. And it was like that every time he got the ball. So if he didn't throw the ball, all you had to do was just get around him and know that you had to tackle him. He did one read, and that was it. Now, at Troy, I think he'll do pretty good. But in Power 5, that doesn't work too well when you make one read. All right, next one is Corbin Page. 3-star tight end. He didn't register any stats last year that I could find, although I could have swore I've seen him in a couple of games, but I couldn't find any stats for him last year. So he's undecided on where he's going to go, and hopefully he comes back into the program because I think he's going to be a great player. Now we go to Mike O'Laughlin. 3-star tight end, and actually Mike should have been up above Corbin Page. He's transferred to University of Houston. He had 5 receptions for 66 yards and no touchdowns. Really, really, really good tight end. I really liked him. He could run great routes. Big guy, physical. So I like Mike O'Laughlin. I think he'll do a great job for Dana Holgorsen down there at Houston. And, he's got a good one. And it may have been Dana that actually started recruiting him originally back in 2017-18. And that may be why he decided to transfer down there with him. Next one on the list is Mumu bin Wahad. He's a 4-star cornerback. I don't have him listed higher here. He didn't get to play much, so I didn't have much to go on. But he's probably a lot higher on this list than where I have him. He's transferring to UConn. He had 3 solo tackles last year. But, a 4-star athlete, supposed to be very, very good. Just a freshman last year, so just didn't get to play. All right, next one we have is Charles Woods. He was a 3-star cornerback. He's transferred to SMU. He had 7 solo tackles. So that was the top 10 players that I have in the portal leaving West Virginia. And like I say, if we go back to the beginning, the biggest one is Jordan Jefferson. Losing Jordan Jefferson really hurts. And then I've also ranked the top 5 coming in, and I'll have those for you. I wanted to make sure that you or anybody else didn't have any questions or corrections to these.
Well, Coos, our buddy Coos, is letting us know in the chat. I looked it up that Reese has moved on to Liberty.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Reese moved to Liberty. Okay, where did I have him going? Let's see. Let me go back here.
Maybe to no one.
Maybe to no one. Yeah, that may be right. Yeah, and I think I did have him going to one. Yeah, I had him undecided. So apparently they hadn't updated. I don't remember if I was on On3 or Rivals looking at the portal today. But apparently they haven't updated it. Thank you, Coos. Appreciate that. So he's going to Liberty. Wish him a lot of luck there. Liberty's a good team, so he ought to have some pretty good luck. Anybody out there disagree with mine where I put people on here as the top 10?
Well, let's see what we've got here in the chat. We've got a few West Virginia fans chiming in. David Cummings says Reese did not have a chance. He was a possession receiver, not a one. Although you need those guys.
Right.
West Virginia Mountaineer Lair with Kenny says the same thing. He was going to lose the number one spot. Connor Johnson, of course, we remember at this point last year, JT Daniels was looking at West Virginia, Oregon State. And who was the third team? Missouri, right? Yeah, I believe it was Missouri.
Yes, Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri, Oregon State. And our buddy Connor Johnson wishes JT Daniels would have made the move to Corvallis.
Yeah, the thing about it is I think JT Daniels is a great quarterback, but for some reason, I don't know. He's been productive where he goes at the beginning of the season, right? He was productive pretty good for West Virginia at the beginning of the season. But then he started getting interception prone. He started throwing interceptions, making bad decisions, right? I mean, look at the Kansas game. We should have never lost that game, but he misread. It was supposed to be an outside throw. He threw it inside. The defender was there, intercepted it, run it back for a touchdown, and we lost in overtime to Kansas because of that. I'm not saying that the whole game was his fault. I'm saying that, that was an inopportune time to throw an interception. And that happened several times throughout the year. We had an interception that should have been returned for a touchdown later in the year. Actually, a couple of them that should have been intercepted and returned because of his throws. He was slow on them. He was slow on making his read. Then he would throw it late or throw inside. The receiver would be outside. And there was just so many times that 9 interceptions probably could easily have been 17 interceptions because of the number that was dropped, in my opinion. All right, so I've also got – sorry.
Yep. Go right ahead, Joey.
Oh, well, I was just going to move on to my top 5. I'll let you say what you're going to say before I do that.
Well, there was a comment in the chat about UCF having its spring game tonight. So we want to remind everyone that we've got the Miami spring games coming up at, I believe, 7:30. I thought it was at 7 o'clock. So anyway, we've got a live stream watch party for the Miami spring game. And for anybody that's not interested in Miami football, we're going to take your calls and we can talk all of college football. So leave it right here. Stay here and we'll talk college football and take your calls throughout the night. But somebody in the chat had mentioned that UCF has its spring game. So a couple teams of note that will compete with West Virginia this year in the Big 12 that have spring games tonight. You got TCU on ESPN Plus at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and you got UCF with their spring game tonight as well. So we'll keep an eye on those two.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on those. And, well, I've got ESPN Plus, but now next week, West Virginia spring game. And, if nothing else, if Mark is streaming something else on his channel, I'll stream the West Virginia game on this channel for you guys. We won't stream the game, obviously, but, we'll come on here and talk play-by-play and talk about what's going on in the game while we watch it. All right. So now let's get back to the top 5. This is the top 5 transfers that will help immediately, in my opinion. Montre Miller, 4-star cornerback out of Kent State. Last year he had 50 tackles, 40 of them were solo, a forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. We need so much help in our secondary. And you'll see as we go down through here, a lot of these players, almost all these players, these 5 players are defense. And maybe all of them are defensive players because we need a lot of help. And then after losing Jordan Jefferson and stuff, we need help even on the defensive line. But our secondary last year was horrible. So it was Swiss cheese. There was holes everywhere, and we couldn't stop anything. But Montre Miller should be a good addition. Next one is Fatorma Mulba, if I'm pronouncing that right. 3-star defensive lineman from Penn State. Last year, he earned academic All-Big Ten honors as well as the year before. He appeared in 12 games, primarily on special teams last year. But I figure he's going to come in and make an immediate impact on our defensive line since we've lost Jefferson. So I look for him to come in and start right away. So that's why these two are up there as 1 and 2. Without a doubt, the cornerback's much needed, but as well as the defensive lineman. Next one, I have Devon Hawkins, 3-star defensive lineman from LSU. Last year, 31 tackles, including 1 sack. Another one that's going to help us out on the defensive line to replace Jordan Jefferson. So, so that's going to be great that we got 2 defensive linemen coming in, both of them with some experience, especially Hawkins here has a lot of experience. So I think that the defensive line, that should shore up the defensive line, if you ask me. Still worried about our secondary, but the next player should help that a little bit as well, because we got Keyshawn Cobb, 3-star safety out of Buffalo. Last year, 66 tackles, and including 6 tackles for loss and 1.5 sacks. So he ought to be able to make a pretty nice impact in our secondary. And from what I gather, and I'm sorry I couldn't find this for sure, but someone was telling me about a month ago, or maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, about him, and saying that he runs like a 4.5. So maybe pretty quick too. Next one, Bernie Bishop, 3-star defensive back from Minnesota. He played nearly 300 snaps in 2022, registered 30 tackles and a sack, and he has 2 years of eligibility left. This one was just landed today, so this is a pretty good addition to the team as well. So that was my last one, my number 5. I'm wondering if anybody's agreeing with me on the way I put these people in order. Let me go back here. I'll go back over them one more time. So the first place I've got Montre Miller. I think he's fantastic, and I think he's going to make a great addition. Fatorma Mulba from Penn State. Then Devon Hawkins from LSU. And then Keyshawn Cobb from Buffalo, as well as Bernie Bishop from Minnesota. That's my top 5 transfers coming in. And we need those defensive backs and safeties and the defensive linemen as well.
Well, my thought, Joey, is I've not seen any of these guys play other than, I watch Minnesota and LSU and Penn State play games. I don't recall specifically watching these guys play, although I obviously in watching the games was watching them play. But and so I've got no scouting report or anything specific on these players. Now, Minnesota's had a top 5 to 10 defense in the country the last 2 years. And if you grab a guy that played in the defensive backfield that had 300 snaps last year in Bernie Bishop and had some production there and has 2 years of eligibility left, so that's a really good pickup. And anybody along the defensive line that picks up 31 tackles, that's a pretty significant number. And if you do that in the SEC, so the LSU defensive linemen, those are the 2 that pop out at me because they've played with 2 extremely good defenses and they were productive.
Right. Yeah. This one, if I'd had more time, because this one I didn't even know about Bernie Bishop until 5 o'clock today. So I didn't really have time to, sit there and look at any game tape on him, see where I thought he should land. So I just put him in at number 5. It could be I'd want him at number 1. I don't know. But I have watched the others. And guys, I'm sorry I went through those really quick, but the live show from Miami is going to be coming up, so we're probably going to end this show about 6:45 tonight, and I wanted to make sure that I could get all that in. We got plenty of time now to sit and talk about them.
So when you scan the guys that they bring in here, Joey, versus obviously you're more familiar with the guys that left, and like you say, Jordan Jefferson to you is by far the biggest loss. How would you guess that balance is coming out either in West Virginia's favor? Did they lose more than they gained, or did they gain more than they lost?
Oh, we lost more than we've gained. We've lost more than we've gained because when you look at losing Jordan Jefferson, that's a huge loss right there altogether. I'm just going to say right now that That's such a bad loss. Caden Prather, you know, he was going to be so good, and already was pretty good. I mean, you know, just a freshman last year and done pretty well. 51 receptions, 502 yards. Um, and probably that was 3 touchdowns. That's probably what I put 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
Reese Smith, another one, you know, I think that's, and you look and we're losing a lot of defensive players and we lost a lot of wide receivers and lost 2 quarterbacks. Now, the 2 quarterbacks weren't starters, right? We've you know, we're probably most likely Nico Marcio is going to be the starter at West Virginia this year. 99.999% sure of that. So Nico Marcio being the starter, he's had a couple of snaps in the games, obviously, but games we were getting blown out in, or we were blowing people out in. But the other quarterback we lost, Will Crowder, like I say, he was a one-read quarterback. So he gets a ball snapped to him. He would look for one receiver. And if that receiver was covered, he would just take off running. He's not tall. He's not really a Power 5 quarterback, in my opinion. I don't think he can see over the line. I don't think he's good at I think he's scared of his timing in the pocket and scared of just taking a step up in the pocket to go to his second read or whatever he needs to do. So he just panics and takes off running. And he's a great runner. There's nothing wrong with him running, except he's a great runner. He's a great scrambler. But still, it's just, you know, you got to be able to do more than one read and then throw the ball. And that could be coaching. I'm not saying it's his fault at all. That could be coaching. You know, he's liable to get to Troy and just absolutely tear it up because of his coaching.
Coos is telling us that he's hearing that the third string quarterback, Boyle, has looked really good at practice.
Yeah, I had seen that. I had seen that something about that too, that the third string quarterback was looking pretty good. So David says Goose was never given a chance to develop. Well, you know, I think they tried to develop him. I mean, look how many times he got in games, and he would make one read and take off running. You know, so that I think that they were trying to get him to develop, but I think he just panicked. And you know, I have a good friend that you all would know and respect very much, and respect his opinion. And he told me, he said he's not a Power 5 quarterback, and I'm not going to throw him under the bus and tell you who it was. But believe me, you know who he was. If you're a West Virginia fan and you respect his opinion, he told me plainly. He said, "Joey, he's not a Power 5 quarterback. He needed to go to Houston, but they're coming into Power 5, or not Houston, Troy. They need to go to Troy, but they're playing a lot of Power 5s." But he said, and that's what it meant. He said they play a lot of Power 5s. Watch them; they'll lose all those games because he's going to be so scared of these guys. He said he's not a Power 5 quarterback, and so at Troy, though, he feels like that he will do better, especially with his scrambling ability, than he will do in a Power 5 program. So I look forward to kind of watching Will Crowder because I've always liked him. I think he's a great quarterback. He throws a pretty ball. Problem is, one read and taking off running is bad. Alan Aaron says, "Joey, I would put the NC State wide receiver in there." Aaron, who is that? I don't think I've seen an NC State when I was looking today. Do you see? You got him up?
I'm looking.
I'm sorry, guys. I'll be right back. I've got to plug my laptop in. I thought it was plugged in, and my battery's going dead.
All right, I'll pick up Joey on this one. So yes, I'm very familiar with. So the comment made by whomever made the comment, Alan, about the NC State wide receiver. Absolutely. So yeah, Devin Carter. It's Devin Carter. I've watched him play a lot. I would project that he's going to be earning a paycheck, not through NIL. He's going to be earning a paycheck on Sundays. Yeah, Devin Carter, most definitely, I think is somebody that, you know, maybe at the top of the list here. So the wide receiver from NC State, he's been extremely productive in his career. He's got a big body at 6'4", 205. And Let's look up his numbers. I'm guessing he caught 45 passes last year, something in that range. Let's see. Devin Carter last
I'm
season.
back. Sorry about that, guys.
Wrong Devin Carter. It's not an NBA player. So yeah, the NC State wide receiver, Joey, I'm extremely familiar with. His name's Devin Carter. I've seen him play many times.
Do I not have Devin Carter in there? I do know Devin Carter as well. I thought I had him in there.
Yeah, 6'5". Well, if you believe 247 Sports, he's listed as 6'3" here anyway. Yeah, he caught 25 balls last year, 406 yards, 2 touchdowns. He caught 6 touchdowns the year before. He's caught 118 passes in his career, 32, 29, 31, 25 in the 4 seasons that he's played a lot of football, and usually about 400 or 500 yards per season and 10 total touchdowns in his career. Yeah, I love the Devin Carter pickup.
Yeah, I like that too. And actually, I forgot about him. And the list I was on today, I don't remember seeing him on there. So I got to think of which list I used. Because whichever one I was using did not have him listed. So obviously they had a few mistakes there.
I always go to 247 Sports commitment list, and they'll show the entire recruiting class, and then they'll show the transfers coming in.
Yeah, for some reason I think I was on Rivals. I was looking at On3 for a while, and then I went over to Rivals. So I don't know if I was on On3 or Rivals getting these numbers and information on them. But we've got some good transfers coming in, so I'm excited about that, right? Our defense, we lost a lot, but we're picking up some good replacements there. So I'm not so worried about our defense now as I was 2 months ago. I mean, I was really worried about us 2 months ago. Our offense, the only place I'm worried about us is with wide receivers and then the young quarterback, of course. I know one thing, though. We've got a man in the backfield. We got 2 of them, you know. And C.J. Donaldson, though, C.J. Donaldson is going to be so good. And I'm really, really glad that he stayed on and didn't transfer. I was really worried about that. So.
And Joey, back to the defense, you make the comment about how porous the defense has been the last couple of years. And the defense that Neil Brown inherited and the defense that played the first season there in 2020, that was a good group.
Yeah, 2019 was his first season.
Yeah, 2019.
They were decent. Yeah. That was under Vic Koenig, right? So Vic Koenig was the defensive coordinator. In 2020, Vic Koenig got fired, if you remember, for making a religious statement to one of the players, quoting the Bible. And so he ended up being fired for that. And we had Jordan Leslie and Jamila Dye that were splitting duties as offense coordinator. They were co-coordinators on defense. And so that year, 2020, was fantastic. We had a great defense that year. Mind you, it was a COVID-shortened year, but we still ended up playing 10 games. So it wasn't shortened by that much.
Yep.
We had really good defense. But at the same time, after that year, Jamila Dye went through Georgia. So now we have Jordan Leslie, who has taken over, good friend of Neil Brown's, came from Troy with Neil Brown, and he's the defensive coordinator. And honestly, I don't know anyone that thinks he has a clue of what he's doing, to be honest with you. I can't tell you a single fan or a single person in radio or podcast that would tell you that Jordan Leslie knows what he's doing with the defense. We've been absolutely atrocious, and our secondary has been really, really bad under him. So, but he's got to figure it out, and I don't know what we're going to be able to do because I don't think Neil Brown's going to fire him. And like I said, Neil Brown's probably a dead man walking right now. If he gets if he has a decent year, let's say we have a pretty bad defense, but our offense, can do good, and we end up winning 8 games for some strange reason that is never going to happen. But let's just say we do. Yeah, let's just say we do. And they keep Neil Brown another year. They're going to have to fire Jordan Leslie. bottom line, they're going to have to do it. And if Neil Brown won't do it, Ren Baker's going to have to step in and do it. And also tell him, hey, we're hiring a good offensive coordinator too. You can stay on as coach, but we're getting rid of your buddies and your friends. And we're hiring. Now, Chad Scott has just been promoted to our offensive coordinator. He was our running backs coach. I like Chad Scott. Chad Scott's excellent coach. He loves the players. The players love him. There's some, they've got him mic'd up on YouTube a couple of places, so you can watch him mic'd up. Knows what he's doing. I mean, he's really smart, really good with the kids. And so I really like him. Now, can he run an offense, though? He's in a Power 5 trying to be an offensive coordinator now and from a running backs coach. So, that I'm worried about that. Yes, it is, David. Running back room looks real good. I agree 100%. I mean, and starting with CJ.
Hopefully, we still have Joey with us. Joey froze up there, but we will continue.
Yeah, I think about it.
There you are.
Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, CJ Donaldson, they just got to keep him healthy and got to keep him happy, and we should be pretty good.
We appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football for our West Virginia channel. And I know it's been kind of difficult to find us for the last month or 6 weeks, something in that range. We've been dancing all over the place in terms of we missed a few weeks. We also had some schedule changes and showed up at a different time. So we will do our best to continue to lock it in. And but the best way to find us is just to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for the notifications. And that way, when we send out that link, and we set up the show about 4 or 5 hours in advance, you're going to see the notification and you're going to know when we go live, because we've got a lot of shows and a lot of schedules to juggle, but we're going to do our best to lock in on a particular day and time, but that might take a while. So somebody out there is listening because they've subscribed to the West Virginia channel. So we picked up a sub. So everybody else, I just left the link in the chat. Please do so.
Also, I want to point out to everyone, so like tonight, Brad Smith was actually going to come on and do the show with us, but we originally scheduled it for 8. We had to change it to 6 because of the Miami game, so Brad couldn't make it at 6. So, we're going to start reaching out to some people and try to find a permanent person to, do this. Chris, Golden Blue dude, he was so good at this stuff and excellent and things. And I enjoy doing it, but I'm not as knowledgeable as a lot of these guys, a lot of those guys. And so I like to find somebody, that, and I can fill in occasionally or something and do it. But, if we could find somebody, it'd be great too. So any suggestions out there, that Mark and I know, because it'd be nice to find somebody who could do it on a regular basis like Chris does, like Chris did.
We did have an interview a couple months ago with West Virginia AD Ren Baker, and this guy that I'm sharing the screen with, he made that happen. So not a whole lot of channels out there are going to be able to pull in a Ren Baker. So Joey made that work. So we are doing our best, and Joey in particular, to get us the best possible, whether they're guests or they're main contributors that will be here on a regular basis, but we will be out there pursuing the best possible commentators and analysts on West Virginia football.
I want to also point out that I'm in touch with Ren and Mike up there at the View quite often and stuff. And we talk quite often. We will have interviews with coaches too. We just wait until after spring game and things, and we'll be pulling in some coaches and some players and talking to them on here and stuff. So, if you know somebody that's not subscribed to the channel, get them in here to subscribe, because, it'll be a great opportunity. Now, are we going to have Neil Brown? I can't say what coaches we're going to have. All I've asked for is to be able to have coaches. And I've been told not a problem, Joey. Well, you can do that. So which coaches, I don't know, but we decided to wait till after spring game and then get it going. So spring game's next week. and then we'll start interviewing some coaches and players from West Virginia right here on the Voice of College Football for you.
Joey's going to start making phone calls as they're walking off the field from the spring game.
I probably will. If you see Rim Baker pick up his phone while he's walking across the field, you'll know I'm calling him. So.
Blank Name says, the guy hosting tonight seems like a really good dude. Well, they got to be talking about me, Joey. They can't be talking about you.
They got to be.
Yeah.
Can't be talking about me.
No way.
Can't be talking about me.
No, we would not have a show here without Joey. So Joey's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, so Mark, I work for Mark, guys. I'm more or less an employee for Mark. Help him out and stuff, and Mark and I have a good relationship outside of the college football world here as well. But here in the college football world, we talk on a daily basis, 74 times a day sometimes. So, and so Mark's got a lot of platforms, right? It's 25, 26 channels to keep up with. And we got to find guests for all those channels and things. And so we always have a lot to do. We stay pretty busy. But that's my job for Mark, is just to help him in anything he needs done and other things. So we have some special things coming up, guys. I'm telling you, we got a lot of stuff in the burners for you guys that I think you're going to like. We just can't talk about them right now, but there's some special stuff coming.
The one thing I will talk about is that I appreciate everybody being here for us and supporting the channel. And I'm going to get back to a lot of the things that helped grow us to almost 40,000 subs, and a lot of the reasons why all of you are here. So expect a lot of those kind of good series to start here. I'm looking for spring football to clear, because we're going to attack spring football for the next 3 weekends with a lot of watch parties and live streams and call-in shows. But as soon as I can assess all these teams after spring practice, we're going to hit you with conference power rankings and schedule previews, and we're going to hit you with a big May debate month. So if you've got a debate that you would like to see me wage against any group. So for example, we'll got to give you a reference point. I got to think, what would you think, Joey, is the most debatable point or game, or the most controversial topic, or again, game, coach, anything in West Virginia history? Is there something that people like to debate?
Well, it's funny because I see it quite often. People debating whether Pat McAfee lost our game for us in 2007 against Pitt when he missed 3 field goals. I don't think you can blame Pat McAfee, but he did miss 3 field goals, and we lost 13-9 and would have been playing for national championship. I think that's probably one of the biggest debates. And that one in 1993, when we were undefeated. Yeah. And should have played Nebraska for the national championship.
Yep. I am a big believer in that the results have to count. And even if there's voters who believe a particular team's better than another team, well, if you've got 2 undefeated teams standing, and I don't know what terminology, I forget what we were using at the time. We didn't call them Power 5 teams, but basically major conference teams. And you had 2 undefeated teams, they have to play for a national championship. Because there were a number of years in which they couldn't play for a national championship because there were contracts with the Rose Bowl, but this was a season in which those 2 teams could have played for a national championship in 1993. They were the only 2 undefeated, should have played for a national title.
And
so
that's a
good
season that West Virginia had already beaten number 4 Miami. Who had beaten number 1 FSU before that, had beaten number 2 Boston College, who had beaten number 1 Notre Dame, and we were undefeated. So we should have got to play Nebraska for national championship. And, so that's probably the biggest debatable thing in West Virginia history, in my opinion.
I will add that to the list. That's a good one too, because the way things played out, obviously going to the Sugar Bowl and getting whacked, the team has no fighting chance or argument for a national championship. But you have to look at what could have been. You have to look at what the decision should have been going into postseason. The way things played out, Notre Dame certainly has an argument because they beat Florida State head to head and they had the same record. And Florida State came out with a national championship. So a lot to debate there. And as WVU Mountaineer Blair with Kenny says, shoot, the entire 07 season was just a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. So fun. Yeah. But now another thing too, we're talking about that 93 season. Yeah, I agree. Florida State shouldn't have been playing for that national championship at all. But if West Virginia could have beaten Miami, we would have won a share of the national championship. Because we were number one in the coaches poll. Nebraska was number one in the AP poll going into those those bowl games. So West Virginia was already number one in the coaches poll. So if we could have beaten Florida, we could have won a share of the national championship. Most likely. Remember, they'd done the shares back in. Yep. You had the coach. You had both polls had to agree before you got a undisputed national championship. So that's the thing about that is, if we could have just beat Florida, we would have got a share of it. We didn't beat them though. We got our butt handed to us. That's for sure. And you can point at a lot of things and say, well, the players were down, and they wanted to play Nebraska. They should have been a different bowl. And I guess that's right. You can say that, but at the same time, they should have played the game. They could have won a share of it if they'd have just played the game. So,
yeah, I'm a big believer that human nature and human emotions and all that plays into it, that you can have that question. You can make that question. You can make that argument. You can say that this team was down or this team was let down by the decision that was made. They weren't in the game that they should have been in, and therefore they weren't focused. They weren't motivated. And there's no way to debate that one way or the other. The only thing we can go by is obviously the result. And in this case, doesn't look pretty.
Yep.
All right, folks. Anything else before we move on here? Because Joey is moving on to what he's got planned tonight, which you can certainly let us know, Joey. And we've got a watch party for the Miami game right here. And I don't want to scare off anyone that wants to just talk college football. So even though it's the Miami game, we're going to take calls and you can talk anything college football.
So I will say that we have hold on 1 second. Let me make sure that wasn't him canceling on me or something. I don't think it was though. Just want to make sure. No, it was. It's good. All right. So at 7:30 on Eat 'em Dogs Matthew channel, we have JC Shelton from UGA Live, UGA Football Live. They are the largest independent broadcasting. Is that what was it, Mark? You was talking to them as their largest independent. I mean, they got 179,000 Twitter followers, 50,000 Facebook.
The largest independent site or platform.
Yeah, largest independent platform. So they're coming on to Eat 'em Dogs with Mayhem Matthew at 7:30. So if you just look for Eat 'em Dogs, if you want to come over there, if you're a Georgia fan, or even if you just want to see JC Shelton, so I've got to head over there right now. Then at 8 o'clock, I've got to go to Twisted Rooster. So, I kind of go all over the place. And then if Mark's still alive, I'll come back over here. But kind of got other commitments, so I couldn't be here tonight. But yeah. So anybody that wants to go over there, I invite you to come. We'll have a great show.
All right, folks, we're going to get the stream turned around immediately here so we can get set up for the Miami game. But I believe Miami kicks off at 7:30, so we got a few minutes here, but I thought it was at 7 o'clock. Joey, go have a good time, and we will catch up with you soon. Appreciate you doing this.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you having me, and y'all have a good night. Let's go Mountaineers.
All right. Once again, everyone, we've got the West Virginia channel link in the chat. So get on over there to the West Virginia channel and please give us a sub. And as Joey mentioned, he is not fooling. He is in connection with a lot of great interviews, similar to what we had a couple months ago with West Virginia AD Ren Baker. Okay. Keep it right here. Stay right here on the channel. We're going to shut down. We're going to start the Miami stream. We're going to be on the Miami channel, and we're going to be simulcasting on the main channel. If you're not a Miami fan, don't worry about it. We're going to talk all of college football. We're going to watch the Miami game and keep track of the other spring games. But the Miami game is on. I believe I'm going to be able to pull it up here off the ACC Network digital feed, and then you can call in the show. We can talk college football. So call-in show is coming up next. Keep it right here.